Let's go to the review of round 20, the semi-finals, and we'll start with Carlton versus Melbourne. As I said, we'll start talking about how good Carlton were. They did very well. They only had 18 scoring shots to 26, but they took their chances, and so many people are saying that Carlton shouldn't have won this game, Melbourne should have won it, they had it all day, and they just couldn't lock it away, and I agree with that. But Carlton just have not been able to be, they played some good footy in this one. Paddy Cripps, Sam Walsh, these guys were questioned at the start of the year, and rightfully so, but now they're standing up for Carlton in so many ways. May have been Sam Walsh's best ever game that he's ever played for Carlton. He was brilliant, kicked 2 goals, had about 35 plus touches or something. He was just brilliant. Paddy Cripps was really good, led it from the front as the captain. May not have had that, may not have been his best game of his career, but I just thought that he was just massive. And Tom de Koning, what a game he played. I think that Harry Mackay, I think I mentioned it last week, Harry Mackay should not just be put back straight back into this team. He is not what Carlton need right now. Tom de Koning is bringing that in spades. As a ruckman, he's playing a second ruckman role so perfectly right now for Carlton that he could definitely take them all the way if they can, muster up a big fight against Brisbane next week. Massive game from so many Carlton players. Melbourne did have a couple of good players. We saw Stephen May and Jake Lever at the back half. They did everything they could to keep Melbourne in it. It's just that there's not many others you can really look to say that Melbourne, couldn't lock this one away. I just don't know where Melbourne are at right now. We've talked about Melbourne enough, so, I just want to talk about how good Carlton were doing. They have just set themselves up so perfectly. They've made their run at the perfect time. You could definitely say that they have just scraped over the line in their 2 finals, and that is a fair enough call. They won by 1 goal against Sydney and a couple of points against Melbourne. But, if you can win you don't have to win by much in a final, win by 1 point. There's no percentage to look for. They've done what they need to do. They've been able to lock games away, which they weren't able to do last year, which was a big question mark against them. They won these games brilliantly. That movement in that last play, Melbourne couldn't get back. Carlton played it brilliantly. Blake Acres, what a steal of a trade that was against Fremantle. I can't believe Freo let him go for so cheap. That was dumb by them. He's playing some good footy, Blake Acres, and he's arguably... I know I keep on saying I mentioned this because I'm acting like I keep on sucking myself off. I'm sorry, but I think I said again, he's very important he gives them drive for Carlton, and he's very important, and he's been very important in this final series so far for Carlton. So you just got to give him a lot of credit, and you got to give him a chance next week. They're they're one of the best informed teams in the comp. I think Brisbane are best. Carlton are definitely up there with the Giants. Honestly, and I know there will be Collingwood people watching this, and I'm sorry, but I think they're the 4th best performing team at the moment. And that's not to say that they won't win next week. I think at home, big crowd behind them, I think they'll get over the line. But I think Carlton and the Giants are definitely up there for best formed teams at the moment. Who is hitting fire right now? It's it's those 2 teams. So, you can't discount Carlton, and great performance from them as a whole. First time in 23 years they've made a prelim final. So that's massive for Carlton, and they deserve this win in the end. They were able to hold on in those stages when Melbourne looked like to take it away, and they were able to fight back late when it looked like all was said and done. So Carlton win this game by a couple of points, and you've got to give them every chance next week. The votes quickly, we gave 3 votes to Sam Walsh, 2 votes to Paddy Cripps, and the 1 vote to Stephen May. And now to the other game, which was Port Adelaide versus the Giants. We've talked all about Port Adelaide, how disappointing they were. The Giants, very good performance again. They just... I think it was mentioned in the broadcast that Toby Green said that, this may not be the most talented team on paper, it may not be the most talented team he's ever played with, but it's the most trusted he's been. And I can see that in spades. They don't have the best forward line, Jake Riccardi and Jesse Hogan, Jesse Hogan may have had a very good reputation at the start of his career, but has really dropped off since then. He's playing one of the nearly in career best form. I know he had a 60-goal second year when he played for Melbourne, but he's playing a selfless football game. He's not kicking bags of goals every game, but he really stood up in this one. He kicked a game high 4 goals. He was massive in this performance, Jesse Hogan. Toby Green, again as captain, stood up. Last quarter, took a great mark under pressure, nailed the goal. All around the ground, Sam Taylor and Jack Buckley, arguably the best defensive duo in the comp. And I think Sam Taylor only missed out on All-Australian because he only played 15 games. And I think you have to play 16. I think that's a bit crap. I think he should have made the All-Australian team anyway. But, I mean, that's fair enough. And Steve, he's playing some good footy. But even when Jack Buckley was there by himself throughout the year, he stood up so well. And then Sam Taylor's came back, and he just hasn't made any ripples in the defence. He's just slotted in nicely, and they're playing their role. And the Giants are just so good to watch. Now, you may have seen that Cornelia wasn't mentioned there. He was best of field in this one. He has stood up so well. He must be such a resilient player because his career was questioned a couple of years ago, and he's just stood up. I've nothing but admiration for Stephen Cornelia. He's been a great footballer this year for the Giants. He's one of the huge keys for them, a potential, inaugural premiership for them. I don't think that's the right word. Inaugural. I mean, it is first, so probably. But Stephen Cornelia is a real chance. I can see him as a Norm Smith medalist, this guy. Massive performance from him. Massive performance from the Giants. And they smashed Port Adelaide around a lot of the areas where Port Adelaide are very strong, like the midfield that they've been this year at clearances and stoppages. They were massive, the Giants. And Tom Green as well, he was massive. All the role players like Bedford and Daniels. There's no. I mean, I know you could just point out a lot of a lot of points where the Giants could be, not as good as some other teams, poke some holes in their game. But at the moment, why would you? They are such good form, the Giants, and you give them every chance next week. We've seen back in 2019, they were able to go to the MCG against Collingwood and beat them. So why couldn't they do it again with a team that's playing so well coached by Adam Kingsley? And whoever has not picked up Adam Kingsley in the past, you are stupid. What are you doing? Adam Kingsley is just an absolute coaching masterclass at the moment. He's doing everything for the Giants. He's a heart and soul of the club at the moment. It's insane this club is, in a spot where this is the youngest club in the AFL at the moment. We know Tasmania is coming very soon, but they're the youngest club in the AFL. And they're one of the most loved. Can you believe that? It's amazing what they've done in the space of what? Not even 12 months, really. I mean, they finished with 6 wins last year, right down the bottom of the ladder. And now they're in a prelim final. You got nothing but admiration for this club. Sydney fan or not, you got to respect what they've done, the GWS Giants, and I really think they have a chance next week against Collingwood. But we get to the votes nonetheless. Stephen Cornelia got the 3 votes, like I said. I thought he was best of field. I know some people could say Toby Green, maybe Jesse Hogan, but I thought it was Stephen Cornelia. The 2 votes went to Jesse Hogan, and the 1 vote went to Toby Green. But those 3 votes, I think the whole 22 were massive for the Giants, and they just stood up when they needed to, and they're playing some really good footy. You can't discount them. You got to give them every chance next week against Collingwood.